you have to hold some cash. That's critical. Investors don't want to hold cash because they get a negative real yield on it. They feel like their purchasing power is declining. But if you have a circumstance like this, where the market is frothy as a consequence of liquidity and as a consequence of emotion, rather than because of increases in trade or productivity or other reasons, what you have to understand is that there is some real risk of a black swan event or some tightness in liquidity that gives us the circumstance that we experienced in 2008. I'm not saying that next week the market is going to fall by 50% or anything like that. All I'm trying to say is that you have to maintain larger cash balances than many people feel are prudent. When you have cash, in the event of contraction in liquidity, which causes all prices to fall, you have the tool and hopefully the courage to take advantage of it rather than being taken advantage of by it. I also believe that investors, particularly of my age, over 60, need to maintain some of that purchasing power in precious metals for reasons that we can describe later if we want to. I'm not talking about buying gold because the gold price is going to go up. I'm talking about buying gold because gold traditionally has been insurance against the depreciation of the purchasing power of your savings. I'm also saying, by the way, that you don't need to get completely out of the broad market, or if you have courage, even reduce your exposure to the broad market. Well, I suspect that we will, sometime in the next 2 or 3 years, experience a broad-based decline in liquidity, and hence probably a broad-based decline in equity indexes. I'm also of the opinion that 10 years from now or 15 years from now, that a collection of the greatest companies in the United States, represented by the S&P 500, would be higher than it is today. But while everybody talks about 10 years from now or 15 years from now, everybody lives for the next year and a half or 2 years. So maintain some cash, maintain some precious metals.
Okay, let's take that a little further, the cash part. I get the cash part, but if there's a real crisis, a real black swan, we've seen what happened in the Bahamas when Hurricane Dorian hit and people didn't have access to their cash. They couldn't get to the ATMs. It was the impetus which launched them to launch a digital currency. So how do you get access to that cash in a crisis, Rick?
Before we continue, help us clicking that YouTube like button and subscribe now to our channel. This shows the algorithm that you valued this information. And it helps us spread that message. Sharing is caring. And now, let's continue.
I suspect that many of your more prudent listeners might store some of that cash in the form of, as an example, junk silver or cash that they had immediate access to. I would encourage your younger listeners, Daniela, who do that, to be very cautious about how they store that cash and how many people that they tell that they have access to that cash to. It exposes you to a whole different set of risks. I'm not discouraging what you suggest. I'm just saying beware of the risks of having a lot of liquid assets in your house. Sometimes people come to visit you whom you normally wouldn't have over for lunch.
But it's not necessarily part of the banking system.
I believe that in the near term, 12 to 18 months, that fears of the collapse of the banking system are overblown. I personally believe that confidence in the system, however misplaced it may be, is very high. And what makes the political system and the banking system work is confidence. So in the very near term, in the 12 to 18 month time frame, I think that the amount of cash that you have freely available to you doesn't need to represent anything like a year's worth of survival cash. I think the probabilities of a near-term collapse in the banking system are pretty low, despite the fact that among my own crowd, I may be one of the few who believes that.
So basically, do you think that there's a threat though in this general moves? I mentioned Bahamas, We see Japan with the digital currency, China testing out their digital currency, Europe announcing they want to test one out, and we could see one, within the next decade. Does that pose a major threat to commercial banks?
I don't think it does pose a major threat to commercial banks, because I suspect that the commercial banks are powerful enough economic and political entities that they will cause the emergence of digital fiat currencies to serve their own interest.
I have bad news for you. If you're not rich by now, you're screwed. And if you're in debt, you're even double screwed. How so, you might wonder? Well, the sad truth is that you're working your whole life to make someone else rich. The mega corporations, the banks, the politicians, everyone is getting richer. They get your money. And what is even worse, they get your time, they get your life. You are not even in a rat race, you're in a financial prison. But what could a solution for you look like? Honestly, I don't know, but I know what a solution for me would look like. It's very simple. I use whatever money I have and I multiply it with 1,000. This could make my life much easier and probably yours as well. If you have $1,000 available and multiply this with 1,000, I believe that this could solve some financial issue for the one or the other. Of course, if you're ugly, you would have to multiply it with much more than 1,000. My name is Markus Dahn, and this is what I decided to do. I decided to 1000x my money. This is not a joke. I know what you may be thinking. What is this guy talking about? How should this work? This is not possible. Well, I made a detailed video where I laid out my plan. And some clever folks might even want to look at this plan and copy it and do exactly what I do. This is just a little hint on the side. You have two options. You leave, you forget what you have seen. You do whatever you're doing and you hope that somehow you get some other results. Good luck with that. Or you click the link below the video. You enter your email address, because I'm not showing this to everybody. You at least watch my video on how I plan to 1000x my money. The choice is yours. Make the right choice. Join me. See what a different future you could have. See at least how I plan to do the 1000x. So click on the link below, enter your email address, and I see you on the other side. Your Markus Dahn.